Welcome to the General's Gentlemen.
Got a railgun under fire. Reposition.
Target zone designated. New position.
Taking effective fire. Copy.
Defense alert. Artifact dropped.
Enemy railgun firing on friendly. Taking fire. Position marked. Ready. Set. Alter fire. Alter fire. Roger. Alert. Railgun lost.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever Shoutcast for Deserts of Kharak. This is a bit of an interesting workaround, which we'll explain in a second, but for a start, my name is The Machine of the General's Gentlemen, and joining me is Mr. Magpie842.
Hello everybody, it's fantastic to be here. I'm Magpie842. We're going to be bringing you some Deserts of Kharak action, which is a lot harder than it sounds right now.
Yeah.
So we've kind of jerry-rigged a solution using first-person perspectives from two players.
Yeah, this is really cool. So, Deserts of Kharak has launched without replays, which is a little bit frustrating, because we're both very keen to do shoutcasts, because this game is pretty awesome. Just for a bit of background, if this is your first time watching us, so I'm a YouTuber and streamer. We do shoutcasts of Company of Heroes, Command Generals, Rise of Nations, a few other stuff like that. Magpie, I think you only do Company of Heroes, isn't it?
Yeah, I only do Company of Heroes. I've done one Deserts of Kharak video because I just love the game. But yeah, Company of Heroes is it's my shtick. It's my bag, baby.
Awesome. Alright, so basically what we actually had to do here, since there's no replays, we're actually not even casting a replay. This is just us watching two videos. Basically, we teed up with Quicksilver and A Game A and Z, two of the very top tier players. They actually are like the alpha testers, so they are like hardcore game knowledge. They're not like the highest rank. They're like top 5 though, so we can refer to them as the top rank.
They were the highest rank until about 5 days ago. They're pretty damn good.
Yeah, and I think the reason is more so because they're playing custom games for like scrims and they're actually playing ladder. So I guess we'll kick this one off. If you haven't seen this game before, I did a review for it on my channel lately, so you can check out my video review. So we won't probably be explaining too much of this game. It's going to be more aimed at people that actually do understand the game, and it's just us doing a shoutcast to showcase what a high tier game looks like between these two players who are very well known. So we haven't actually done our audio sync, so probably should have done that before we started. But either way. So clap after 3, 2, 1 clap. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. Okay, yours was a bit late. 3, 2, 1. Alright, awesome. Let's go. So 3, 2, 1. Unpause. 56, 55, 54. Oh, good to go?
Yep, I'm good.
Wicked. Alrighty, so I'm in. It's going to be A Game A and Z as our Galcian and Quicksilver as the Coalition. A little bit confusing as we are kind of flicking between two screens, but we will manage. We'll try our best.
Yes, indeed, yeah. So as casters, we've each got the first-person perspective of each of these players on our dual monitor setups right in front of us, so we can see all of the action. There's basically no fog of war for us. And I've actually had the honour of playing against A Game Anx once or twice on the ladder myself. I say the honour, I was severely just destroyed by him. He was on another level. It's safe to say he's the best player I've ever played against. And he's using his tried and tested opening build here, which is where you grab the production cruiser that you start with, research sand skimmers, build 2 salvagers, get the salvagers extracting resource units, and start spewing out sand skimmers from your advanced production carrier. This enables you to put the pressure on really early, storm your opponent, and get your sand skimmers into their resource lines and start destroying their salvagers. Nasty stuff, GG.
Yeah, it's very common, and it's really one thing you got to mention if you are new to this game is you can't eco-rush. You can't expand a support cruiser. You have to open up with assault vehicles or the sand skimmers. If you do try and rush out a support cruiser or the economy unlock for the Galcian production cruiser, you will just get steamrolled by quick harassment. So already now we do see some sand skimmers and LAVs actually clashing heads, and so there's actually a bit of a nuanced interaction between these two units if you want to actually explain it.
Yeah, for sure. So, sand skimmers are actually, for those of you who play StarCraft 2, they're very much like Mutalisks. They're very fast, they do good damage, and they heal themselves very quickly out of combat. LAVs, on the other hand, they don't heal themselves, but they have longer range and they do slightly more damage than the sand skimmers. So the Coalition player here, Quicksilver, what he's trying to do is engage at range, use his carrier as a defensive bulwark, and just hold off these sand skimmers. Meanwhile, A-Gamer is just trying to go in for damage. He needs to micro back any of the sand skimmers which are getting focused, and you can see he's doing a fantastic job of that. Has not lost a single sand skimmer so far, and you can see the effects of those self-repairs is enabling him to stay in this fight. He's up to like 6 now, and it seems like he has stopped building just now, so I wonder if he's going to transition out. Traditionally, this rush is a very short phase of the game in GVC, so he may well be transitioning out shortly. Let's see what he decides to do.
We actually saw Quicksilver rushing out his AAVs, so that obviously the hard counter to the sand skimmers, able to just completely destroy them. They have very high armor, so the sand skimmers don't really do that much damage against them. And what's also really important is they have the suppression ability, where whatever unit is targeted by an AAV actually gets slowed down, so you can't really escape.
That's right, yeah, so the AAVs are the perfect counter because they stop the sand skimmers from escaping whilst dealing them heavy damage. So you can see right now A-Gamer realizes that armored assault vehicles are going to be on the field very shortly, so he's moving his production carrier into a slightly more defensive position. He's using his sand skimmers just to probe about and see if his opponent's going to make a move for any of the artifacts, whilst he himself is just now securing the first artifact. And I feel like we should mention the artifacts because this is a pretty unique feature. Not many RTSs have a feature like this. So GG, why don't you tell us about how the artifacts work?
So I love the artifacts. Basically how it works is, in order to actually win the game, you have to either destroy your opponent's carrier, but also you can get the base runners to take and then escort the artifacts back to your extraction points. And the reason why it works so well is because if it wasn't for this mechanic, Deserts of Kharak would be a pretty slow game. The carriers make it hard to be aggressive, but because of the artifacts, it means that players are constantly fighting over map control, trying to really take and hold the map, because it doesn't take long to get those artifacts and actually win the game.
Yeah, that's right. It also just lends combat a really nice dynamic as you're both squabbling for these same artifacts, and you have to keep an eye on when the artifacts are going to respawn. You can see there's a little circular timer there, which gives you the heads up on that. So anyway, A-Gamer ranks right now. He's pulled back his production cruiser. He's going to turn that into essentially an extra base. For those of you who play StarCraft, you kind of expand in a similar fashion and then have a number of salvagers who function like your workers in StarCraft. They kind of run to and from and gather you resources. So he's going to use that production cruiser as a mobile resource drop-off. He's using his sand skimmers actively, just keeping an eye on his foe. He doesn't want to take a fight, but he wants to just see if his foe's moving out and wants to know the timing of when Quicksilver expands.
So it looks like A-Game has gone for a more of a economy-based strategy. He's gone for his expansion pretty early, as you mentioned. On the other hand, Quicksilver's actually rushing out his the Strike Fighter fabrication. So do expect to see some of those Strike Fighters actually come online pretty soon.
Yeah, I definitely do. In terms of the air forces between the two nations, the Coalition Interceptor is very much stronger. Oh wait, sorry, did you say it was A-Gamer who's researching the Strike Fighter?
Quicksilver.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sorry. So the Coalition Strike Fighter is like very, very powerful, and the Galzian forces actually have quite a hard time researching any hard anti-air options. So there's a really nice window usually where the Coalition player is able to exploit this. Now we've got action going on all around the map. One of the armored assault vehicles, for which there's basically no counter on the field right now, is getting up in A-Gamer Ranks' face, but he just now has a heavy railgun coming out. Now these guys have a massive range, almost as far as they can see, and I'm not talking insofar as like their own sensor range. If you have a unit spotting, all they need is that line of sight, and they can almost fire across like a third of this map. And they're very powerful against the armored assault vehicles. So the stone, paper, scissors kind of goes, well, it's kind of
stone, paper, scissors?
Yeah.
Isn't it rock, paper, scissors? You crazy
only
Englishman.
if you come from America.
Well, that's what we say.
Oh, wow. Well,
Yeah.
there we go.
Aren't we such a backwards culture, right? Either way, at least you don't say a different order, like scissors, paper, rock. That's when it gets kind of weird.
Oh, yeah, that would be crazy.
Yeah. Alright, so what I did like from Quicksilver, he actually went for the harassment on A-Gamer's worker line. We did that with an AAV, which is kind of unintuitive because the LAWs, the light attack vehicles, are much faster, but by using his AAV instead, it meant that A-Gamer couldn't actually respond with his sand skimmers. If you see his sand skimmers in there, they would just get destroyed by the AAV and wouldn't really be able to prevent it. So, as we saw there, A-Game had to actually pull away his salvager line, and once he got his railway, he was able to deter that push.
Absolutely. Now, one disadvantage of not having a dedicated observer mode is that it's very hard for me to tell exactly what the players are researching unless I actually am looking when they click on those things very quickly. So it's quite hard for me to say what's coming. Oh, it looks like we've got a strike fighter run here from the coalition player Quicksilver. He's coming in. He's looking to use his strike fighters to counter the heavy railguns. If he can destroy the heavy railguns from the Galzian player, he can roll on in with his armored assault vehicles, and that'll be really good. And to that end, he's already just picked off, I think, 2 heavy railguns. Brutal times. Now, the production carrier for the Galzian forces does have reasonable anti-air, and A-Gamer Ranks is able to take out that interceptor, sorry, that strike fighter, but that's still efficient from the coalition player. Losing a strike fighter for those railguns is absolutely fine. And you can see the position here from A-Gamer a little bit more constricted. His map vision not nearly as good as Quicksilver's, who's pushing through with a number of these armored assault vehicles, which are not particularly expensive. Now that the railguns are down, they've got a real window here, and behind this, A-Gamer has to be building anti-air. You can see these missile ships now entering the field. He's only got like 1 railgun, I think. So this is going to be a pretty hard defense. Let's see what Quicksilver can get done.
Yeah, having the map control, it really will allow Quicksilver to actually get more artifacts. Currently, A-Game does have 2 artifacts against the 1 of Quicksilver, but in this situation now, if Quicksilver does start getting those artifacts, I don't really see how A-Game can actually contest that. He needs to try and get more railguns out, but then also support that with more missile ships, because he hasn't got the attack vehicles, I forget what they're called, the assault vehicles, the unlocked. They're generally not very preferred in the current patch. Generally, railguns are a stronger unit.
Yeah, that's right. The Galzian equivalent of these armored assault vehicles is called the assault tank, and it's a little bit soft right now. The developers are aware of it. There's a dialogue going on the forums, and they're looking at ways to improve it. So hopefully that'll be fixed soon. And for now, you basically don't see it unless it's GVG. You see them sometimes then, but in CVG, this matchup that we see right now, the assault tanks don't really come into play. It looks like we've got a move out here from A-Gamer Ranks. He's got a wing of sand skimmers just guarding this his opponent's extraction zones. A couple of AAVs being lured out to deal with them, but he's got a railgun waiting, which you can just see plinking them down a little bit. Missile ship's going to get up close, and the missile ship does anti-air, but it also has a targetable skill shot here, which is going to use to barrage those AAVs, getting some nice damage in there. So nice use of that missile barrage ability.
Also a nice snipe on the heavy railway from Quicksilver. It meant that by destroying that railgun, there wasn't really anything to actually contest the AAVs. There's only the missile ships and the sand skimmers, which just are worthless against those AAVs. So long as Quicksilver can keep sniping down those railguns, he'll have a really good chance. And we actually have
absolutely. And this is a really exciting moment. We've got a triple-pronged attack here as Quicksilver pushes in to his opponent's carrier and his second mining base with a wing of assault vehicles and LAVs, the light armored vehicles. He's been able to displace that second base. The salvagers and the production crews are having to make a run for it here for A-Gamer Ranks, which means that his resource income is being crippled. There's also units on top of his heavy railgun by the carrier, which gets taken out by an armored assault vehicle. A bitter loss there. There's no railgun coverage near his carrier. So A-Gamer Ranks taking some losses here.
Yeah, starting to lose these salvages is it's always expensive to replace those, not just in the actual cost, because they're kind of cheap, it's only 100 CUs, but the delayed mining time is a massive setback. And we do have Quicksilver trying to get another one of those artifacts, but there's actually a few railguns there now, so Quicksilver has to actually destroy those railguns before he can try and extract that.
Yeah, and Quicksilver here, A-Gamer here, A-Gamer Ranks, the Galzian player, knows that he's behind, so to that end he's just basically prioritizing covering his opponent's extraction site so that Quicksilver cannot exfiltrate these artifacts behind this fantastic aggression he's been putting up. And let's see, how many bases is Quicksilver mining on? Okay, so Quicksilver only mining on 2 bases right now, so the Galzian player, A-Gamer Ranks, definitely out-resourcing his opponent, and he's going to scout that right now with this wing of sand skimmers that's moving into his opponent's 3rd base. He's going to see that that's completely empty, and that's going to give him a really good feeling. He's got 4 heavy railguns out, he's got a missile ship, he's building sand skimmers, and the tech behind this, I can just see he's just started. Did he just click on the assault ship fabrication? Yeah, so, okay, I imagine he's getting this because it unlocks siege cruisers, not because he wants the assault ships. As I was just saying, they're a bit soggy, especially in this matchup, but the siege cruiser, completely the opposite. That's a very powerful, very heavy indirect fire piece.
Yeah, at the moment now, we also see Quicksilver going for his 3rd support cruiser, or 2nd support cruiser rather, so he will have access to all 3 of those resource nodes. As long as he can defend them against those sand skimmers, then he'll be fine. And I think the 2 base is really why Quicksilver's pulled ahead in terms of map control and aggression, but now it's starting to kind of wane off a little bit as the earlier expansions from A-Game X, it's putting him ahead now if he can hold on. It looks like Quicksilver's trying to get that artifact on the extraction, but he has a lot of railguns cutting him off, as well as a few sand skimmers. So now the aggression really is coming onto A-Gamer, who's trying to make a play with these sand skimmers. He hasn't been able to just yet because the defense has been really good with these AAVs. But have you actually seen if A-Gamer went for his rating?
Sandskimmer rating has not been researched. Those Sandskimmers are moving very slowly, and that's just fine because Sandskimmers already outrun everything the Coalition has pretty much. So it's not so bad. Not so bad that he hasn't researched that. Now, behind all of this that's going on, Quicksilver has produced his second support cruiser, so that's effectively going to serve as his third point for resource drop-off. So he is expanding right now to his third base, and that's going to put both the players on an even resource footing. A couple of armored assault vehicles just going to come in and have a little poke here at the Galzian carrier. This is just an annoyance run. There's four armored assault vehicles. That's going to force the railguns to reposition and deal with it. The carrier's not in jeopardy, but those resources could be. And we even saw the deployable smoke, which is an ability that the armored assault vehicles have to disrupt line of sight and senses coverage from your opponents. And
yeah,
that's
here
not
comes the railguns though. Another smoke being used to try and prevent the railguns from coming through. It was nice to see Quicksilver use the smoke not just for railguns, but also to block the carrier off. He used it to buy time to get that flank of his AAVs to try and get as many of those workers down. Actually, it looks like A-Game's going to be taking out the logistics modules. That's the one downside of moving your carrier, is it will leave your logistic modules vulnerable. What those are what actually increases your population cap. And they're quite expensive given how weak they are. So harassing those can be a good way of setting back your economy. It's 250 CUs apiece.
Yeah, and it seems like A-Gamer is basically actually overrunning Quicksilver right now. These Sandskimmers are going down to the Interceptors and the AAVs that are nearby, but he's doing good damage to the logistics modules, he's picking off salvages, he's disrupting mining, so this may well be worth it, and he stands probably still to escape with a number of these Sandskimmers. He may want to think about just splitting them a bit more, because the attacks from those airborne units are AoE, and when your Sandskimmers are clumped up like that, you stand to lose a lot of them per hit. As you can see, these shots here raining in, they're actually not clumped up enough for that AoE to be a factor, so A-Gamer is going to move on to that third mining base. He's going to find that it is indeed mining and just tax his opponent's multitasking by getting some work done. And you can see on the map here, he's moving in with another wing of sand skimmers on what is his right. So he's going to try and get that base runner and harass mining in two separate locations, while his railguns are heading to the third. So it actually seems like the attack on the right just a feint. He means business. He wants that cruiser on the left there.
Actually, he's being escorted though. It's really nice to see Quicksilver making sure he always has AAVs next to his base runner. So it was a nice attempt there with those sand skimmers, but just no real chance of actually pushing through those AAVs. And behind this, we do actually see Quicksilver. He has finished his assault cruiser fabrication. Actually, now going for his arty cruiser fabrication. So wanting to rush those out.
Oh wow, that's really interesting. It's not often I see Coalition players skip the assault cruisers, actually. The assault cruiser class vehicles are pretty heavy in this game. They're the largest class of warship available, other than the carrier itself, and the Coalition can get out the assault cruiser pretty quickly, and they usually do. So probably some kind of read into the tech that he's seeing from his opponent A-Game Anx is making him want to delay that. And whoa, the Interceptor's picking off exposed railguns here. Where are the missile ships for A-Gamer? There's only two, and one of them is kind of just coming into coverage range, but those Interceptors are able to pick off two heavy railguns. That is business right there. That's not what you want if you're a Galzian player.
Just for the record, those are actually strike fighters. Interceptors are Galzian.
Ah, sorry, yes, quite right.
For the record, like, we're pretty new to this game, so there's a lot of things that we like don't know and are saying things wrong. So our apologies if there's people watching who are like super hardcore fans of Kharak. But considering the game's only been out for like a week, you know, we're trying our best.
Yeah, we are doing our best. So, one thing that you don't really appreciate when you're in the zoomed-out sensors manager's view is that terrain plays a massive role in this game. And with the railguns in particular, if the difference between being on the side of a sand dune or in the bottom of a valley compared to being on the top of a sand dune, like, drastically affects what they can see and therefore what they can shoot. So controlling a particularly good sand dune, in this map right in the middle, is absolutely vital. And that's what A-Gamer is doing, setting up his railguns to form a nice support network on all of the high grounds there.
You also get extra damage as well from those sand guns. Sand dunes.
Yeah, you can, yeah.
So we see in this situation, the railguns are basically firing across the entire stretch of that middle, so they really do have long range if you can actually make use of that.
Yeah, and you can see a nice network here of spaced out railguns with spaced out missile ships covering them, and this makes it really hard to attack into. If you have your railguns clustered up, your opponent can kill them all by attacking one location. By spreading them out across the map like this, your opponent takes fire from a number of different locations whenever they push at you, and if they do reach your line, they only stand to pick up 1 or 2 units whilst they're still being hammered by the rest of your line. So this is how Galzian fight, basically, using these sand skimmers as support to plug the gaps, missile ships here and there for anti-air, railguns holding the line, and this is the Galzian mid-game. Now we've got our first siege cruiser coming on out here for A Gamer, so that's going to be the heavy guns. That's some big guns, and if he gets that in range of his opponent's carrier, we're looking at maybe 2 salvos to kill it. It's very deadly. Yeah.
At the same time, we also have the artillery cruiser for Quicksilver. So how does this interaction go between these 2 units?
Well, to begin with, it's pretty even. They both have similar range and similar power. But once the Galzian player researches the EMP shell, which I saw A Gamer start and then cancel, so he doesn't have that right now, then the siege cruiser can totally win by EMPing the artillery cruiser, and then supporting units can mop it up. But is that, what kind of cruiser is that for the coalition player? Is that not an assault cruiser?
I thought it was artillery.
I'm not sure.
Oh, assault. No, sorry, it is assault.
Okay, so the assault cruiser is a good all-rounder. It likes taking on its foes at mid-range or even close range. It has a couple of cannons, a couple of missiles. It's just a really good all-rounder. It's also stolen from Galzian designs, so it's a coalition cruiser, but unlike all their other units, it's quite nippy and it hovers.
Nippy.
Oh, so it looks like Quicksilver right now gonna commit his carrier into a slightly more aggressive role, and as we move into like the late mid game, it is completely typical in this game for your carriers to become weapons and for you to just manufacture additional bases to take over the resourcing operation. So both players actually moving their carriers out, and you can shift power into different systems on the carrier to make it better at different things. So the Galzian player can shift his power into speed and deploy it to the front, or he can put it into weapons or whatever.
Wow.
So they both have options.
The siege cruiser here from A Gamer gets a snipe on one of the arty cruisers, I believe it was, on the side of Quicksilver. So they're actually firing over the shot blocker of those mountains, and able to like be very safe in how they're actually firing, because behind that wall there can't be any attacks from railguns because they obviously need line of sight, and really good opportunity there to try and get that arty cruiser down. They're quite slow. Sandskim are going for a bit of a snipe as well. They're very expensive to actually replace, so if you can snipe them, even if he does lose a lot of sandskims, it's a good trade.
Yeah, the sand skimmers are super effective against railguns if you want to think of it that way, and they're also super effective against like cruisers if they can get close. So these sand skimmers stand to get a lot of work done here, and to that end, yeah, we can see one of the barrage cruisers getting taken out for the coalition player. Those sand skimmers are going to make a scoop for it, and the cooldown on the artillery barrage from the siege cruiser just 30 seconds, so that'll be ready to rock as soon as A Gamer feels like unleashing another barrage. He has to be a bit careful. That siege cruiser is a little exposed. Okay, here comes the barrage. He's aiming it. He's giving some lead. He positions it. Okay, no, actually, he's just going to move the siege cruiser. He wants to wait until he has a better shot. So.
It's really good timing there for A-Game, because during that attack with the sand skimmers against the arty cruiser, behind that he actually had his base runner securing an artifact. So now it is 3 artifacts for A-Game, only 1 for Quicksilver.
Yeah. And these railguns spread out in a nice network here, really keeping this carrier at bay. Every time they hit that carrier, it does noticeable damage. The firepower against large targets is pretty immense. So those 3 railguns, more than enough to keep his opponent's carrier at bay. But here come the assault cruisers. They're going to rush through mid, and they find the stricken, exposed, slow, sluggish siege cruiser for A-Game ranks. There could be a lot of damage dealt here. He desperately scrambles his rally points. Railguns trying to come through. Those assault cruisers taking tons of damage, but the siege cruiser goes down, and he's able to get his assault cruiser out of there. That's going to be able to repair a massive pickup for the coalition player Quicksilver.
Yeah, siege cruisers, they really want to make sure they're back and not exposed to direct fire. That's what the honor guard cruiser is more for, is being that more forward unit, actually dishing out damage, taking some in return. So now the carrier has hit the fray. He's going to be picking a fight with that assault cruiser, and that is a fight that he can definitely win, especially with the help of these sand skimmers. So this carrier is going really far forward, but it's really important as well that behind this, A-Game Anx has actually got all 3 bases mining off of production cruisers. He hasn't left one of those places unmined.
Yeah, he absolutely hasn't, and this is getting really hairy now for Quicksilver. He's got sand skimmers behind his lines, he's got some turrets back there, but it's just not enough, and this carrier is just bullying the cruisers here for the coalition player. He's going to have to play them super scarce. He was able to pick up all his opponent's railguns though, and he's putting enough damage on the carrier, on the Galzian carrier. He's going to force it back. Looks like only power reserve 1 has been researched for for the Galzian player. So having his carrier out here is actually a little bit dangerous. The way it works with power reserves is the more power reserve unlocks you research, the more power you can put into your various systems for the carrier, and the carrier's systems get exponentially more powerful the more power you can put into them. So the difference between each power reserve level is it's not just becoming 1 or 2 better, it gets exponentially better. So he's actually out there fighting with just 3 allocatable power, which means that that carrier needs to make itself scarce, and to that end, yeah, he's bringing it back behind his units. For the Coalition player, he's got a nice wall of cruisers. He's looking actually really nicely set up, still mining off 3 bases. He's held off that aggression. The Sand Skimmers are out of his backfield, and it looks to me like Quicksilver here, if he can get a couple of artifacts, he'll be in a really nice spot. He's got a barrage cruiser and 3 assault cruisers, which is quite the wall.
One of the original CU spawns is actually depleted now. There's only 2 bases mining for A-Game Angst. He's completely soaked up his first one. There'll be a little bit more income, a little less income. So now unit preservation becomes even more and more important. But a bit of a push in the middle here. We've got 3 strike fighters, 2 cruisers, a bunch of AAVs, and the carriers actually going in. Looks like they may be clashing heads here. Not quite within range just yet, but it will be quite soon. Doesn't look like there's actually enough anti-air for A-Game Angst. These strike fighters are just completely destroying this ground army of A-Game.
Yeah, he sent in the Sand Skimmers as a sacrificial gambit to take out his opponent's heavy railguns. He got them, but he lost so many Sand Skimmers it actually kind of doesn't look worth it. So he's just going to break through with the remainder and just throw himself at his opponent's resource operations. And now that his opponent's railguns are dead, if his carrier can take on these assault cruisers, a big ask, but it might be possible, especially with support from that siege cruiser. He can get this done, and in fact, yeah, he takes out one of the cruisers. Now it's just his carrier and a siege cruiser against 4 assault vehicles and 1 assault cruiser. He can take this if he gets his siege cruiser out, but his opponent's carrier comes in. Carrier battle! Carrier battle!
A-Games is already a little bit wounded, 73% health, so needs to be a bit more careful with it. Actually unlocking the Honor Guard fabrication, so that'll give him a bit of a more meaty cruiser rather than his siege cruisers.
Yeah, and you can see the positioning here. These 2 carriers are like sumo wrestlers, and right now they're blocking each other from getting to their respective extraction sites. So each carrier is walling off his opponent from getting to their extraction points, while the base runners are maneuvering in the backfield. If you look for those hexagonal artifact symbols, you can see they're looking for a window to try and sneak through and grab an objective. But a good siege barrage hitting the Coalition carrier, putting it to like half health.
Yeah,
and if we have a carrier battle now, the Galzian carrier is going to take it for sure. So this looks pretty risky here for Quicksilver.
Yeah, assault cruiser on the flank, however, another cruiser was well above it for Quicksilver, so he has a lot more supporting units, but like that nice barrage put his cruiser really far back, and now it's actually getting focused here. Full weapons to bear on this Galzian cruiser. It's going to be chasing down Quicksilver's Coalition cruiser, but still the barrage coming through from Quicksilver's Arty cruiser. Who actually lost? I think that was A-Game, right? It was A-Game A and Z.
And A-Gamer gets wiped out a fraction of a second ahead of the Coalition cruiser, which escapes with like 4% health.
Wow.
Wow, so that one coming down, that one basically both players forced into an epic carrier battle, and it is the Coalition carrier that emerges victorious. You can win on artifacts, but if you destroy your opponent's carrier, then that is a win. So what a close game!
Yeah,
wow.
I actually didn't appreciate just how powerful though those siege and the Arty cruisers are against carriers. I always thought that railguns were your best choice, but in that very, very clutch last moment, we saw Quicksilver got a nice barrage from his Arty cruiser, and that just completely shredded down the Galzian cruiser of A-Game.
Yeah, definitely. The railguns are a fantastic choice, but they kind of represent the peak of your mid-game firepower, and if you get a siege cruiser out, and you get a hit on your opponent's carrier, you'll be looking to see like 30 to 50% of the health wiped off, and that's the late game firepower. But in the late game, bear in mind, both of the cruisers, the Coalition one can divert power to its active armor, which can actually obstruct a lot of that damage, while the Galzian carrier can divert a lot of its power into speed to dodge the barrage, and then self-repair systems, which enable it to recover its health incredibly quickly. The Galzian carrier is actually quite spooky, because it can come in, using its speed, hit you really hard, then transfer all of its power back to engines and self-repairs, get out and repair itself, and then come back at you like before you know it. So yeah, pretty spooky weapon, the Galzian carrier. Though apparently in this example, not as hardy and tough as the Coalition one, so kind of faction design there coming through.
Yeah, so that was a pretty awesome game. A bit of a first look at Deserts of Kharak multiplayer. We can really see how much like interesting mixing of units there is, kind of countering each other's composition, adjusting your own to compensate. So that was a really nice stuff they're coming out from these 2 players. So thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more Deserts of Kharak content. Hopefully we'll have More to come down the line, especially if we do get proper replay tools, not just clunky videos.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to that end, Deserts of Kharak, I think it's safe to say, the core game design is absolutely solid and the gameplay is fantastic, but there are a few functions missing, such as replays and a low number of maps. But it is worth noting that just, I think, yesterday, the developers posted up on their forum, they're aware of all these issues, they're working on them, there's a patch coming out this week, and there's going to be more patches very soon bringing us all these functions. So they know what people want, and they are prioritizing it, which is really good to hear.
Yeah.
They're totally in touch with the community.
Cool. Also, Magpie, you should subscribe to his channel because he does cool videos. So it is youtube.com/magpie842.
That is correct, yep,
Yes.
youtube.com/magpie842. Like I say, I'm mostly a Company of Heroes 2 broadcaster, but going to be bringing you some Total War, going to be bringing you some Deserts of Kharak and some other things in the near future. So yeah, if you like what you hear, head on over to there and see what you think.